Hello, everyone. I am Anne Kampf, and this is the human side of high performance. Today's session is titled Lucky on Purpose: The Science and Self Awareness Behind Success. All my LinkedIn Live series are private, independent projects that I host in my personal capacity. They are created a space for learning, growing, and connection. I invite you to write your comments today and questions directly in the LinkedIn comment section. We will see them live as we go. Today, I am truly glad to welcome Josée Madison. Hi, Josie.
Hello, Anne. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Josie's story begins with determination. At 12, when she was told her family couldn't afford a bike, she created her own opportunity. That mindset carried her into Canada's Federal Court of Appeal at just 22, and later into the music industry, managing artists and international tours. From the outside, it looked successful. Inside, something felt misaligned. Burnout and neurological wake up call at 41 became a turning point. Josie began the deeper work studying science based human behavior, emotional intelligence, and spiritual practice, rebuilding her life from the inside out. She went on to found and grow a multi award winning wellness center, maintaining long term sobriety, and develop her Lucky on Purpose and Smarter Living blueprint frameworks that help leaders regulate their minds, align with purpose, and create cultures where people thrive. Josie brings clarity, resilience, and heart to leadership. So, one more time, Josie, welcome. I'm very happy that you accepted to be my guest today.
Me too. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Josie, let's kick it off.
Yes.
Um, First question that comes into my mind. Looking back at your journey, what experience is most shaped the way you understand success today?
Oh, that's a fun one. My drive, um, the trust that I have that I can make it work. I guess you would say my resilience
Mhm.
really helped me shape my success because of the risks that I take. And that's not for everybody. And I totally understand that. But to know that I'm going to make it work.
In what way do you feel that you will make it work?
So again, I'll go back to the story when I was young and I wanted a bicycle. And I asked my mom, and she said, we can't afford it. When I heard my first no, I thought, no, I can make something work. And for some reason, something just kind of not, I don't want to say snap, but I had this clarity of what can I do to make this work? And I
Mhm.
think that that question itself helped me find answers that if I would have pulled a tantrum and say, no, what I did is I got clear on exactly, okay, so if I want a bicycle, how am I going to make this work? And that's when starting a babysitting service, I started a paper route. And so all these creative ideas came so that I was able to finally buy my bicycle. So instead of going into the negative, I was like, how can I make this work? So I was very young asking those questions.
It's an inspiring story, and I totally agree with you because there are a lot of people that are focusing on the negative part of
Mhm.
their stories. Um,
And psychologists, they call this the negativity thinking, or it's negativity bias. And that is innate in us. That's natural. And the reason why we start thinking negative right away is our brains is wired to protect. And so as soon as we need to protect, we think somebody's after me. And it's really just a natural instinct that we have, that of being negative more than positive, is biology.
right. Um, how can we switch from this negative thinking to a more productive one, to a mode of thinking that serves us, and it's not actually stopping us for achieving what we plan to achieve.
Awareness, self-awareness. And self-awareness is not just about, oh yeah, I'm this type of person or I'm that type of person. Self-awareness is about really understanding and catching that thought. And as soon as you feel that thought, for example, if you're at work and you get this email and it says we need to talk. At first you're like, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? Did I say something in the meeting that people didn't think it was funny? Am I in trouble? Already, right away, we go into the negativity bias. But if we're able to say, wait a minute, this is just fear talking. It's not true. You can catch that thought and go, okay, let me take a pause here. Maybe I'll get a promotion. So as soon as you understand that when your body tightens, when your jaw clenches, or you think a thought, oh my God, I'm in trouble, that's when you can see that you're not really thinking clearly. And
Right.
awareness of that will help you switch it. And I can explain in the science aspect of how that works is we have in our brain what we call the amygdala. It's our fear center. It's primitive. Its first job and only job is to protect us. And so when we're in fear mode, we can't think clearly because we're staying in the back of our brains in fear. But when we have that awareness, we're able to reconnect to the front part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which helps us make decisions clearly. And I know you don't really have to understand that whole scientific aspect, but in layman's terms or in simpler language, as soon as you feel that your body is tightening and there's a fear, that's when you know, this is not the truth.
Right. I read, I think yesterday or today in the morning, something that stayed somehow with me. We tend to overthink the negative parts or possibilities that can happen to us. It would be good if we can overthink all the good stuff.
I agree. And this is my purpose of, when I say lucky on purpose, when I say that, it's not necessarily lucky as in, oh, I won something, or lucky for me is being self-aware in creating intentional success. Whether it's making a decision, whether it's, feeling confident in your opinion. That's what I mean by lucky on purpose.
Right. So luck is not something that just happens. It's something that we have to cultivate.
Yes, in awareness. So like you were saying, I wish we could think more positive than when we think negative. That's a learned behavior. A lot of times, yes, we're in protective mode when we tend to think more negatively. It also has to do with old patterns that we've adopted over the years. And sometimes old patterns are not necessarily beneficial, but they're comfortable.
Right. So it's much easier. It's much easier to access them.
Of course. And it's certain, because most people are afraid of uncertainty. And even though the thought is not good, it's something certain because we've done it before.
Yeah. What part of your work today feels more true to who you are now?
Oh, wow. I love that question. I have to go back to that awareness that I have. I've lived so much in disconnection from myself, doing things that society said it was okay, doing things or fitting in. And many times in my careers, even though they were very cool, I used to be a tour manager in Nashville, Tennessee, and touring with bands. I mean, hey, what's not cool about that?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I wasn't living without the stress or the pressure to perform. And I'm French Canadian, and then I moved to the US when I had this job. So there was even more pressure for me with, be comfortable in English. You got to look smart. So I was in disconnection with my body because I was running away from something that truly felt real for me. I didn't even know who I was. So I would go with emotion. What happened when I had my burnout when I was 41 is I realized that I was kind of like living here and my body was here. And so being more self-aware of my choices, who I am, I feel that I can so much more lead others with awareness and help them see, hey, this is a pattern you're going through. This is something you're adapting that but let's look at the other angle. Let's look at the other side. And we don't realize how much we're disconnected from ourselves.
Right, because we do not pause. We do not take a break.
I just came back from a 7-day retreat in Costa Rica, and the topic was the power of pause. And I had pretty high profile people there, very, busy professionals. And they were surprised on how the pause really helped them cultivate more clarity.
I can imagine that. And this, takes me to another question. You had a lot of high performance there, people there. Based on the interaction that you had with them and with other groups with whom you organize retreats, what do you think it's the best definition or conditions for high performance?
I know that not everybody has the time to meditate for 20 minutes. I get it. But it doesn't take that long to pause. What it takes is one breath, one long breath. And during my retreat, I was very intentional in speaking slowly, pausing before reaching for the next sentence, letting them sink in. So the training was mostly in the morning, and then the afternoon, I encouraged them to focus on what they learned that morning and implement that during the day, throughout the day, and throughout the week. Because really, the retreat that I was doing was 7 days, but there was only 4 mornings of actual training, and the rest was basically integration. And I did that intentionally because I wanted them to learn that the pause is a safe place for them. And as the facilitator being around the retreat, the facility, they would come to me and ask me a question. And that's intentional as well, because I wanted them to realize I am in a safe place. And if I have a question, someone's there to guide me. It was beautiful. And for me, I love doing retreats because of that. It helps them really pause intentionally. And not just that, but over the years, I've heard, and research too says that we learn the best when we're outside of our normal environment, especially in Costa Rica, in the jungle. I mean, everybody was just, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And instantly your nervous system starts to calm down. And that's when you learn the best, because that activates the frontal lobe, where you have more clarity, learning, thinking. So yeah, there's a lot of intentions behind my retreats.
It's very, very, very nice what you are telling me. What happens neurologically when people operate in constant urgency?
Wow. I can use a story to explain this. My best friend, we were best friends since we were 8 years old. And we had said to each other, we're going to take care of each other until we're old and gray, until we die, whether we're married or not. It's you and me, like Thelma and Louise in the movies. And my friend was always there for everybody. She was always working, always worried what someone would say. And she had these dreams that she never really wanted to fulfill because she was scared and busy, 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 busy all the time. And one day she fell ill. And she fell ill where we discovered that she had stage 4 cancer. And 4 months later, she passed away. What was most interesting during this time that I was with her, she wasn't married, had no kids. And I said to her, this is the promise. So her and I, we stuck together, and I was there for her for the for the full 4 months that we had the rest of her with us. She said something very interesting. She said, Jose, I think that I've poisoned myself with being so scared and my limiting beliefs and my toxic thoughts, that my whole system was poisoned by that.
Oh, wow.
I know. And when she said that at first, I was like, oh, what's she talking about? I wasn't where I'm at today. So for me, when she said that comment, I was like, okay, is that the drugs talking? Like, this is weird. But it always stuck with me until I had my own burnout, when I realized that I can't live on high alert my whole life. Because I too, at 41, she passed away, but I woke up and I got a neurological disease that to this day I still have to take care of, because I was living on high alert constantly. And so that's what it does. It neurologically, it hits your nerves, but it hits the way you think, and it hits and affects your body, your physical illness too, cancer, whatever it is, burnout, anxiety, depression. It's the whole nervous system affects everything in our lives. And if we're not aware of that, if we're not aware of our own behavior, a lot of illnesses can develop. And I saw my friend pass away due to that. And that's one of the big reasons why I'm a keynote speaker about self-awareness, is I don't want anybody to suffer like that anymore. It's
Yeah.
it's it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. It's the story you told us. It's sad, but the fact that it had a positive impact on you, and you had this wake up call,
Hmm.
it made a difference.
It really
And
did.
now you can make a difference by sharing and organizing your retreats and raising awareness about awareness and pause.
Yeah.
Um,
Because when leaders are not connected, they can react in different ways. You know, when do I know? Because I talk a lot about intuition, and in corporate intuition, it's like, oh, that's not practical. That's not, that doesn't make sense. Um, but it does if you think about it in the way that, how do I know if I'm using my intuition or if I'm reacting to something, right? Because it's a lot of times when we're like, I'm on this, or no, I did not do that. When you're defensive, when you're on high alert, where you feel you have to fix something now, that's not intuition. That's reaction. That is your nervous system on high alert, fight or flight. I got to fix this now.
yeah.
Intuition looks more like, let me take a step back. What is the best answer here? Sometimes it's doing nothing, but we're so used to not knowing what to do with nothing that, again, our old pattern takes us into the fight or flight, takes us into, I got to do it now type of thing.
And because we want to have kind of a certainty, we are looking for patterns,
Mm-hmm.
even if there are none. And I was watching an interview yesterday, and what stayed with me was something related to intuition. Um, all the they were discussing, and they said that all the best traders on Wall Street are or were not the ones that were calculating things and making statistics, but were the ones that were really trusting their intuition.
Mm-hmm.
This stayed with me because, as you say, we tend to ignore our intuition,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that can really have a huge impact and a
Mm-hmm.
positive one.
Yeah. And the intuition is usually, for me, how I can best explain it, because that was my experience. When I had that little voice that said, something's not sitting right. And as soon as I doubted that, that's when I was not intuitive. So
Yeah.
whenever I felt something's off, something's like, we're not trained to listen to that. We're trained to drown it and just do the work, just move forward, get over it. But today, when I feel that something doesn't sit right, I pause and I go, okay, I need to listen to this. Is this something that I need to pay attention to, lean towards? You know, whether that's someone at work, your best employee, you start seeing then that they're a little bit more disconnected, or they're not sharing as much ideas, or, and then you're like, okay, what's going on with Jack? Maybe I should have a talk with him and see where he's at, as
Mm.
opposed to, oh, he's just through a phase. We're so stressed out. We've got deadlines. Let's just forget about it. And then next thing you know, Jack leaves. And you're like, what happened? Well, intuition told you that maybe you should have addressed this earlier, as opposed to ignoring that instinct of, there's something going on with my team.
Right. How does pausing increase pattern recognition, and the how does pausing how should I best ask, how does pausing support us,
Mm-hmm.
help us
Mm-hmm.
in acknowledging our intuition, what our intuition is saying to us?
So these, they're kind of like two questions which merit two answers. So the first answer is, when we're having a moment of high alert. For example, something comes up and you resist right away. You kind of tense up. That's reactionary. That is your amygdala, the little fear center in your brain that is activated. Fear, fight or flight. I got to watch myself. Something's about to fall. You know, the shoe's going to drop. You feel that, and you're like, okay. You can't think clearly when that part of your brain is activated, because it takes it takes over the whole brain, because then you're like, what, you got to watch your back. How do I react to this? When you see this, what happens is you can't think clearly. When you start feeling it in your body, that's when you can pause, and you catch it, name it, and reframe it. That's what I call it. So you catch that phrase, or you catch that instinct of, whoa, I'm panicking. You name it. Okay, I'm afraid of this. This is what's happening. Okay, how can I reframe this? What we want at that point, and that's the answer number two, is we want to reactivate the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that is more logic, that thinks more clearly, that's got the answers. Once you do that, then it kicks back on. So you're telling your fear center, relax, we're good, we're not going to die, there's no tiger running after us. It's just a little simple question. But because, like you were saying earlier, because we are so used to using old patterns, that we keep coming back to the panic mode.
Yeah.
And so we're not taught to pause, because pause, for especially for high achievers, that means you're lazy, you're not being productive, you know. And so all these myths that we hold on to actually stops us from using the right part of our brain to think more clearly. So when we realize, as soon as you have a thought of like, I can't pause because I feel lazy, I can't pause because that's not productive, that's when you know, this is my fear center. This is my, you know, what I call the overachiever operating system, you know, the double
Yeah.
OS. It's like
Yeah.
007 because it wants to protect you, you know. And so once you do that, you're able to bring that aspect of the clarity into the forefront and say, okay, this is, I'm just afraid here. I'm just reactionary. I'm just looking out for myself, you know. And pause is so important. And it can be, like I said earlier, it can be just one breath. One breath.
Right. But uh, as you mentioned, pausing is often misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as hesitation or
Mm-hmm.
weakness or
Mm-hmm.
laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think this happens? Is it because of the pressure coming from the society?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that we inherited from our families? Why do you think this happens?
So let me ask you this. Um, you're young. We're young. We're both young, 8, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And I say, Anne, be happy. And you'd be like, okay, I'm not really sure how to do that, but okay. But if I say, Anne, do good, be good.
Yeah, it makes a difference
Mm-hmm.
because it gives me a purpose and a how.
Exactly. Exactly. And so society taught us, whether it's parents, whether it's school, whether it's friends, seeing friends succeed, doing means you're going to be seen. Doing good, you're going to be good. Or being good, you're going to do good.
Yeah.
So the more you do good, the more we'll say, oh, congratulations, Anne, you're so successful. This is amazing. But if I was to say to you, Anne, can you just pause for a second because that'll make you more happy? You'd be like, yeah, no, I can't do that. Because we're so ingrained with the word do. Because do for us means we're going to be seen. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be good. But if I am, I chance to not be seen. I chance to not succeed. But when we're being, that's where we really start cultivating the awareness of self. And self for me has a very different meaning. It means your sacred eternal life force, which is your heart. So if someone tells me I'm self-centered, that's a compliment. Because I'm like, yeah, I am self-centered because I'm connected here, which tells me when I'm off and when I'm on.
Right. Um, can be pausing can pausing be trained even in a fast demanding environment?
Yes, it can be trained by understanding how your mind works. So high achievers, for them, spirituality, meditation, whatnot, it can be a little off-putting because they want to perform. They want to bring in the numbers. They want to do this. They want to do that. So my way of explaining meditation or pause to them is teaching them how their brain works. When you're reactionary, it's because you're in fear mode. When you're calm, it's because your frontal lobe is activated and you can think more clearly. Scientifically, this is what happens. This is biology. You are made that way. So once you understand that, you can catch yourself thinking in high um, I don't know, something happens urgently and you have to come up with, an answer.
Mm.
Once you've cultivated that self-awareness, you can take that one small pause and go, hold up, let's just breathe for a second. What's my best answer? And over the years, you become an expert in that. And I'll give you an example. When I opened my wellness center, that was in November 2019, 4 months before COVID hit.
Right. Yeah.
I barely had memberships to pay my rent or pay the 14 teachers and, massage therapists and others that I was like, how am I supposed to make this work? Because we had to shut down. I wasn't having anything coming in. I didn't have a service to give anybody. And especially with yoga and Reiki and massage therapy, you're touching people.
Right.
And so I remember going into my studio, locking the door, and I went straight down on the floor and I said, okay, What do I need to do? I knew at that moment that panicking was not the answer. I had to calm my mind so I can have and welcome answers from my inner intelligence, from my intuition. And what happened is I called one of the teachers who I remembered would give piano lessons like what we do now on Zoom. And I said, Becky, how do you do this? And so she was explaining to me, and I said, you know what? I think we can teach people yoga and meditation. We can do it via Zoom. We can have a link, and everybody logs in, and we can do this. And we did that for 2 years. We reopened after 6 months, but we continued to give that service via Zoom. Had I not realized that panic was not my best friend, I think I would have shut down the company. It wouldn't have worked.
Right. It had a very, very beautiful turn, that this
Mm,
story. Yeah. So,
thank you.
how do you personally understand the idea of being lucky on purpose? Because some will say that you had luck, but you were lucky on purpose from my
Yes.
perspective.
Yes. And how I can best explain this is now there comes a third part of our brain, what we call the reticular activating system, the RAS. That in your mind is your GPS. It will highlight for you things that you mostly focus on. So if I focus on, oh, my boss, it gets on my nerves. I can't believe this is such a stressful environment, da 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 da. You're teaching your brain to focus on that. So guess
Mhm.
what? You will notice more of these moments in your life because you're training your brain to focus more on that and highlight things that are quote unquote what you most focus on, which is my boss is a jerk, or I'm so stressed out. The kids need this. I need more money for this. So your brain's like, oh, okay, so you want me to confirm how stressed you are? Let me show you why you are stressed. Let me show you why you are stressed. I'll give you more of that because that's what's consuming your mind right now. So I often, and I still to this day, still have those moments. But then I'm able to go, okay, wait a minute. If I'm thinking like this, my brain's going to show me more of that. That's not what I would desire. I'd like to see more peace. I'd like to see more companionship. I'd like to see more organization. I'd like to see more calm. I'd like to see more connection, more communication. Then guess what your brain's going to do?
It will
Because now,
focus on that.
exactly, it'll show you more of now your new focus. And so, yes, I've had a lot of people tell me, my God, Josée, you're so lucky. Like, how did you get so lucky? And I created it by really being self-aware on what I focused on and what my thoughts were. My mom said something when I was a kid, and I will never forget. She'd said, Josée, tell me who your friends are, and I will tell you who you are. And I was
I,
like, oh my gosh. So every time I look around, if something's not good, it means I'm doing something to create that. And when I say to create that, is I'm focusing on that more than a good thought.
right. I've heard too the same saying from my mother.
Oh my goodness. Well, there you go. And we're such from two different countries.
Yeah,
That's amazing. I love that.
me too. But it's you say we shall focus on the things that are doing us good, or a
Hmm.
service that are allowing us to create something.
Hmm.
And I discussed this topic also, I think, in my last session with Kate Sostenko. And we hear a lot on the social media this manifestation uh,
Hmm.
in bold. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that for everybody should be clear that it's not enough to say, I want more good things in my life. Um, it's decisive the moment when one decides, I would like to grow in that area, but
Mm-hmm.
then this person also has to take the steps towards achieving that goal,
Yes.
as you did with your studio. Yeah.
Yes. And I can go further with that, because when what you just said, I would like to see more opportunities, blah blah blah. I have to make the steps. Like you said, you have to take action.
Mm,
I think what people don't realize is when they say, I'd like to see more money in my life, and then they go, but what do I have to do? What do I got to do? What kind of action? Right away, they still activate that fear center.
yeah.
And what
And it
happens when
blocks
you activate
everything.
that? Whoop, you can't think. So I love to add to, I'd like to see more monetary financial opportunities in my life. Oh, and then I pick up, I'm nervous about this. Money makes me nervous. Money makes me scared. What's going on? Oh, that's just an old pattern. This is not real. This is just a fear. So let me rephrase this. I'd like to see more financial opportunities in my life, and it's okay if I'm scared, but if I pause, I'll get clear on what I have to do.
Mm, right. And when people say, if they have in their friend circle someone that got a better position or earned more money,
Mhm.
most people have the tendency to say they were lucky. Um, but they do not question themselves, what
Mhm.
did that person do
Mhm.
to get there?
Mhm.
There are also cases, where it happens. You win the lottery or whatever, somebody that knows somebody, and then you get a job. But we are not talking specifically about those cases. We are talking about, let's say, the broader cases. And it happens all over the world, this system of thinking.
Mhm.
When you see someone that they achieved something, the tendency is to say, oh, they were lucky.
Mhm. But I think a better question is, I agree with you, and say, well, what did they do to get there? And and then the answer would be they embodied where they wanted to go. They already felt in their bodies that they believed they could get there. They believed that this could be for them. A lot of times when we point the finger at one person, oh, they're lucky, there's three pointed back at us,
Mm.
which means we have to look at our own behavior and why we're acting that way. I love surrounding myself with people who are way ahead of me, because I look at their behaviors. I ask them questions. How did you get there? What was your state of mind when you got there? What were your thoughts about who you were? How did you feel about yourself? Did you feel you deserved it, or you didn't? Chances are they'll say, "Well, yeah, I deserved it. I felt it in my body. I felt that this success is for me. I embodied that feeling."
They trusted themselves that they can
Absolutely. Yeah.
do
That.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and this is also a very important trait, or a very important quality, that some of us, we have to learn it,
Mhm.
because this way of thinking can be also influenced by old patterns learned either in school or in the family,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
so. Yeah.
And I think what's important is we all have patterns. We all adapted patterns from the past that we hold on to. What we need to understand is the reason why we keep going back to those old patterns is when we answer our question. For example, my brother is a lawyer and he makes a ton of money. Not true, but let's say. Well, how did he get there? Because he's my brother. We're the same blood. You know, how did he get there? Chances are he decided not to continue going back to old patterns that were certain for him, but he decided to embrace the uncertainty of new patterns. So when you understand, like, oh, this pattern, I'm going back to it because it feels familiar. Because when there's uncertainty, let's use an example. You're at the edge of a cliff. You know that if you fall, you can hit the pavement and probably die. Okay. That's a pattern. That's a thought. If I fall, I can die. Okay. But then the person who wants a bigger career or love or whatever it is that you're looking for and want to see more of in their life, at that point, they have to change their minds that if I jump, I know I'm going to die if I fall on the floor. But what if all of a sudden there's a net halfway? What if there's a branch that catches me that I'm not seeing on the way down that's already there? So I'm going to jump. I'm going to feel the uncertainty, but I'm going to switch that to, well, maybe there's a branch. Maybe there's a net catching me. And you start developing new patterns. You start feeling comfortable in that unknowing. And next thing you know, your brain kicks in and you're like, oh, there's a branch. You grab it.
Yeah,
And then
because
someone asks you, well, how did you know there was a branch there? I became certain with my uncertainty, and therefore answers came while I was coming down. I wasn't thinking I'm going to come down and I'm going to fall and I'm going to die. That's an old pattern. I had to erase that. I had to believe that there was something I could catch on my way down. And maybe that's a weird example, but I think in my mind, it kind of does make sense.
It does. And it points out exactly this moment of awareness, the moment of embracing naive curiosity, creating awareness, and, as you said, accepting the uncertainty.
Yeah, and as I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. That's a hard word to say in English when you're French. But it happens too with leaders that are stressed out, that are disconnected. It's the same nervous system. And so every morning I always ask, and I meditate. For me, I meditate at least 20 minutes. I sit in silence. I listen to binaural beats to kind of just help me get centered. Because as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know when money's going to come in tomorrow.
Right.
I have a structure, and of course I know some things are coming, but there's a lot of uncertainty. And so I always ask, I'd like to see more certainty in my uncertainty. I'd like to keep my eyes open in the not knowing. And that my nervous system goes, oh, I can do that. I can try that.
Yeah. I think that this is a good advice for everybody watching us and hearing, listening us.
Yeah, because uncertainty, it's like, I don't have children, but for people who do have children, you know that when you get pregnant, it usually takes 9 months to have your child. Sometimes earlier, depends. Are you going to go after 3 months going, okay, what's going on with this? Why is it not coming out? Hello, what's going on? Like, come on, let's go. We have a certain certainty in the uncertainty. But the pattern is it takes 9 months. So we're comfortable in that because, oh yeah, it takes 9 months. So I'm okay, But if somebody was pregnant and never knew when the baby was going to come, how many people do you think would have children?
I don't know, but I think it's anyway. If you are not opting for a C-section and you are letting nature do his course, take his course, you know in theory that it will take 9 months,
Hmm.
but you never know when that moment of certainty will come. So you are
Exactly.
living, you have, you are living with this
Hmm.
uncertainty and accepting it, and it's
Exactly. And it's just like, so, okay, people that don't have children, you're shopping on Amazon. I'm sure a lot of people shop on Amazon, and you want this great book. Oh, click, add to cart, order placed. Okay, awesome. It tells me roughly when the book's going to come, but it could happen that it gets lost in the mail,
mm,
right? This is still an uncertainty, but for some reason we have certainty because we were given it'll arrive by that time. Okay, well, I'm good, I can forget about it. But what happens is the magic thing is during the wait, you're getting excited for what it's going to feel like when you read the book. So
true.
that's when I say, when I pray or when I write and I journal, I ask for certainty in the uncertainty. I ask to feel good for the in the not knowing. Just like I placed my desire in a Amazon cart. Click, order placed. Okay. Well, here we go.
Mm. And like this, does trust emerge from regulation rather than control, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Hmm.
Um, in what way can leaders intentionally create luckier environments?
By being aware of their own patterns, by cultivating a system within that can help them get clarity quicker. For example, I love using my catch it, name it, reframe it. And so when you have this thought of panicking, to take that moment and go, okay, no, this is an old thought. This is an old pattern. And then you name it. I'm afraid of losing my job if I don't make a decision that's quicker. That's what's going on. I'm afraid to lose my job if I don't make a decision now. That's not really real. That's just me inventing facts that that's what's going to happen. Maybe you've been
Mm.
told that before, but again, that's based on fear. So let me just pause. And if I don't want to lose my job because I want to make a quick decision, might as well make it the right decision. Let me pause and see what is the best course of action. Creating your luck is at that moment of pause, that intuition gives you a clarity where you go, ah, you know what? Let's try this. Don't go back to the old system because that's an old pattern. Let's trust this because my intuition is telling me that this might be the way. So catch it, name it, and reframe it. I'd like to see more clarity in this problem.
I like this. Catch it, name it, and reframe it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is something that will stay with me, and I will remember, as well as what Sue Knight told me in one of my sessions. If you spot it, you got it.
If you spot it, you got it. That's absolutely true. You know,
Yeah. Um, Jose, if someone followed your career from the outside, uh, what would they misunderstand about how you arrived where you are today?
that is the funniest question. If somebody was on the outside, because I have a lot of friends who look at me and go, I couldn't live your life. So some have called me irresponsible. Um, my mom used to call me fly by night because, my very first job when I was in my 20s, I was working at the Federal Court of Canada, working with judges. I was an executive officer, and that's a big job. There was only 10 jobs in Canada, and I had one of them. And at 32, I was like, no, you know what? This is not me. I feel too confined. I can't do this. And I left. While I was doing that, I was a performer and I was studying business management on the side, and I sang on the side. And I always loved music. left my big government job, and then became an artist manager. At first, I was an artist, and then realized, I changed into artist management. Completely two different worlds, very unpredictable. And then from there, I was working with an artist in Canada, brought him over to Nashville, Tennessee, and then became more of a tour manager and did more with up and coming artists and pop stars as well. And then burned out. Okay, what do we do now? Another thing. Met my husband. I became a military housewife because he's military, and we had to move to the Netherlands for 3 years. So I couldn't really do my job because I wasn't, I couldn't travel anymore. So then I became a housewife for 3 years. That was some of the best times of my life because I really discovered who I truly was. And then I went to live with monks in a yoga ashram in Austria so I can study yoga and become a yoga instructor, because at that point I had been in my personal development for about 6 years. And I just wanted to know more about spirituality, alignment, self-awareness. And so I lived with monks, and then came back with my husband to the US after 3 years and really dove into yoga instructor. And then from there, I moved on to having my own wellness center, and then realizing that I could bring self-awareness to retreats. And I just finished writing a book. Now I'm still in editing. So people would look at me and go, oh my God, like this is crazy life. But I think for one, they could see ambition, resilience, and trust.
And heart,
Trust.
I
And
would say. I would add.
yeah, and heart.
It's an amazing story.
Even me, sometimes I'm like, how did I do all this? Like, this is crazy. Why did I do all this? And I think the reason why I did all that I did is so that it can cultivate what I have today to share with others. Hey, I get it. I get the stress. I get the stress of last minute decisions. When I was working in the music industry, I had an artist. We were going on Good Morning America, and it was 6:00 in the morning, and it was an outdoors event, and it started raining, and the dancers would have killed themselves on the floor on the stage because it was just so slippery. And I had 14 seconds to make a decision before we go live on TV. And I thought, pause, what are we going to do? And then I figured out a way to bring a kind of like a leathery mat on the stage so that the dancers could actually stand on and dance. So I know what it's like to make last minute decisions, or even when COVID hit and I had to shut down my wellness center. My stories may be a little bit more fun and interesting because of, it's rare that you meet a speaker who's been a tour manager in the music industry. Usually it's from someone who came back from corporate and now are speakers about corporate. But for me, I come from a whole different world where people go, wow, she had super cool jobs, but it was the same stress.
Yeah. True. I take the example, the kids. When a parent try to teach his kids or her kids things based on the facts that he or she, the parent, lived, usually the kids are, like, yeah, come on, you are old. I mean, it will not happen to me. Did you notice that does this thing also happens when you as coach teach from your learnings and from your experiences to others? Because for most of them, I'm sure that something clicks and they take in the knowledge that you share, the learnings. But did you notice this reaction? Yeah, well, it will not happen to me.
So I don't have children. I have cats. They don't really listen to what I tell them. So, maybe that's the same thing as having children. But I think and I'm going to answer this, and hopefully I answered your question, but it's like a parent saying to a child, when you get to your friend's house, call me. Okay. So that instills in the child that there could be danger, that you want them to be safe, that you care for them and you want them to go home or to go to their friends and to be careful, right? That's what you think you're doing. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But really, that's not what you're doing.
No, it's annoying them.
Well, not just that. The reason why we tell them, call me when you get there, is because we don't feel good with the uncertainty. Will they make it?
Correct.
So when they call you, then you go, okay, I feel better now. So it's not even about teaching the child something. It's about how do you feel, how you want to feel. You know, my mom would always say, you know, when she left, I was 18 and she moved and I was left with the apartment. And she was like, you know, I was married when I was 18 and you'll figure it out. And I was like, what in the world? But it was more about how she felt and how I interpreted something, you know. And a lot of times when we teach people something, they will hear what they want to hear and they will hear what they're ready to hear.
Yeah.
So I can't instill in my client and go, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. Instead, I ask them, let's explore this and unpack it, what it means to you to think like this, you know, or, oh, it's not never going to happen to me, when my mom would say something. And no, it didn't happen the exact way. But I too say to my niece, you know, you got to be careful because, but then I'm thinking, nuh-uh, I'm sharing her, my fear of my experience. She's going to have a completely different life. When she needs guidance, I can share with her, here's what I experienced in my moment of weakness or in my moment of doubt.
Yeah.
Does this feel familiar to you? You know, because I want them to learn to trust their own thoughts. I want them to trust their intuition that says, no, you should go right. And here I am telling them, no, 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 you got to go left. The reason why I'm telling them to go left is because I'm afraid.
Very true. Yes.
So you want to go right? Let's explore going right, and I'll be with you. We're going to grow together with and build that trust as you turn right.
Right. And be your safety net if needed.
Well, yeah. And I cannot instill my fear in them. That's doing a disservice to why they hired me in the first place, you know?
Correct. And yeah, this is also the attitude that leaders should have towards their interns or towards their mentees.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not
and they can
just
learn
one way.
No, and they can learn about themselves too.
Yeah.
And then go, oh my God, I didn't, wow. You know, I know we're almost out of time, but I remember when I was working, when I had my wellness center, and my manager, we hired an admin to help us. And I was asking my manager, why don't you give more to the admin, more responsibility? Well, I love to do it that way, and that way works. And I said, you're just instilling your own fear. What if she has great ideas and we don't know about? What if her system works better than ours? Let's explore that. You know? Yeah. And so we did. And sure enough, there was an idea that she came up with, which was brilliant. And so I instilled confidence in my manager to trust her team. And now to trust that maybe she was learning something new as well that kind of took away her own fears.
Right.
I love this conversation.
Me too. And I think we can go on and on and on, and we will not get bored. Yeah, but unfortunately we are closing our hour, our 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm. It was such a pleasure to be here with you and your listeners. I hope that what I said has been fruitful, helpful, you know. Because that's my goal. If I can plant a seed on one little heart, then my job is done.
I think you've done this very well, and I enjoyed very much the conversation with you, Josie, because it's not about slogans, it's not about
Mm-mm.
commercializing things, it's about true life experience. It's about knowledge gained not only through studying, but also through living
Mm-hmm.
uh, and having experiences
That's right.
and learning how to best share those experiences and
Mm-hmm.
create awareness and give others the space that they need in order to be lucky on purpose.
Mm-hmm. And then you catch it, you name it, and you
You
reframe it.
reframe it. Great. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you
Uh,
so much.
Thank you, everyone who joined us for Lucky on Purpose. And remember the next session, Creating and Leading Adaptivity with Dr. Fiona Kerr, CEO of Neurotech Tech Institute from Australia, takes
Mm.
place on the 19th of February, starting at 9 a.m. Central European Time. I would be glad to have you there in the audience. Until then, stay curious, be aware, pause, and lead with purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you.